Just because we haven't seen Oyster Perpetual for long enough doesn't mean there is no history. In fact, it has a history longer than some more known models including Explorer 2 and Yacht Master. The reason this secret gem remained hidden is because it originally came out in ladies' version in 1964, and then it wasn't until 2014 that Rolex added men's versions to it with 34 and 36mm sizes. A year later, the series saw a bigger 39mm size. And then in 2018, Rolex added white and black dials to make the line a little more iconic. Soon after its release in 2018, I reviewed the white dial version and shared the reasons why I thought the OP could be the next big Rolex to acquire. Since then, I've reviewed another 48 watches on my channel, which included some of the top tier brands and many other high-end professional Rolex models. So has my opinion changed about this model after all this time? And if so, in what way? If you find this video informative or helpful, please don't forget to support me by liking and sharing this video and subscribing to the channel. Without your support, I simply cannot make more videos. If you already have done so, thank you very much for being the reason that I'm still making these videos and reviewing the watches that you and I love. While the rhodium, red grape and blue colors that OP39 originally came with were beautiful and attractive, let's get the facts straight. The most classic and basic colors of black and white are simply the most versatile too. And with these colors introduced in 2018, the market value and desirability of Oyster Perpetual has far improved, and I can easily see why. In addition to just the color changes in the new dials, there are further cosmetic touch-ups that Rolex have done with the new black and white versions that have pushed the OP series along the lines of more timeless Rolex designs that just never go out of demand. And what they are, let's have a closer look. Where the color dial options come with colored and contrasting dots before the hour indices to add more youthfulness and fun looks to the dial, the black dial comes with plain black and white tone and vibe to give the watch a more elegant and simple looks. The white dots and lines between the hour markers are beautifully complemented by the white text, which comes in crisp and clear font to display only 4 lines distributed evenly in lower and upper half of the dial. The OP39 makes a contrast with traditional Rolex sports watches in many ways. For instance, most of the Rolex watches come with 3 or 4 lines of text at the bottom of the dial, and then in OP we have only 2 lines of text to enhance the classier looks. How we don't have the 3rd or 4th line here also has a bit of interesting background. While we call this model Oyster Perpetual as its name, all the Rolex professional models including Submariner, GMT, Yacht Master and Daytona are Oyster Perpetual too. And the reason is because Oyster Perpetual is the name for the case and the movement, with Oyster being waterproof case and Perpetual being the rotor or the movement which is perpetually winding. So technically this model has no name. And well, this nameless model serves a good purpose, and we have 1 less line of text in the dial to keep it uncluttered and life simple. Another difference that this black reference has from the color dials is that the luminous material is filled in all the hour markers. It's worth noting that the blue, red and rhodium dials come with the same stick hour markers, but they are fully solid and have no lume in them except for 3, 6 and 9 position. But if you compare that with this black dial, it is fully lumed gorgeously for all the hour markers, and it's actually very functional too. I also love the way how the lume material, being white, matches with the text color to add a nice contrast to the view. Another character I love about the dial is the chamfered sides of the hour markers on both ends, allowing them to play with the light as you move your wrist. The luminescent material is a gorgeous green on the watch, and it's worth noting that where the Rolex Sub, GMT and even Explorer come with the blue lume, this OP39 adds a beautiful contrast to the collection by offering the green lume. Looking at the lume, there's something special you can observe which is missing in most of other Rolexes, and that's the symmetry and balance of dial elements. The lume is bright, but unfortunately it does dim out quickly, and only after 3 minutes you can see it's already starting to lose the brightness. Now let's bust out the macro lens and see if this OP39 passes the macro test. The hour markers and luminescent material filled in them look good, and there's no lume material popping out, and the chamfered ends of the hour markers maintain sharp corners and profiles. While the hour and minute hand come with polished surfaces, and I do like the angles and two facets on the hands, which not only enhance the wrist experience but also improve the legibility for time reading due to one of the faces always reflecting. The quality of hands and polishing is not even basic. It's actually unfortunately inferior to the point that it is concerning. Not only I can see dust and smudge marks on the hand, but there are visible scratches on the polished surfaces showing how inferior polishing Rolex have done on these hands. I was hoping they missed to polish this hand and that it's not the standard, as we simply don't expect this level of poor workmanship. And I went ahead to inspect the other dial hand for the hour, and I was merely shocked to see the level of scratches and marks. I'll be honest, under the macro, when I saw these long lines of scratches so consistently spread out, for a moment I got confused to think that these hands are brushed. And then I was concerned why the brush lines are not parallel. And then I had to shake my thoughts to realize that these are actually polished surfaces, with the scratches on the surfaces so long, continuous and deep enough that the quality of polish is simply poor. I don't want to exaggerate, but I do want to emphasize, and this is truly the worst polishing job on the hands I have seen in any watches to date I have reviewed on the channel. If these hands were not under the crystal and the watch wasn't only 1 week old, I wouldn't even have believed that this is Rolex finish. The second hand shows no different quality and shows similar dust and scratches on polished surfaces. The Rolex logo at 12 o'clock shows similar minor scratches, but above all shows a deep scratch which almost looks like a crack on it too. You may be thinking that it's just an angle of the lens, and I couldn't believe it myself. So I changed the angle and position of my camera, and sadly my camera couldn't do the magic to make the bad look better, and it never will. The good news is that you can't see it with naked eye, and from the distance they still look polished and as shiny as you can imagine, and you wouldn't even know if they are there. But the bad news is that it's still not a valid excuse, and is clearly a poor workmanship from Rolex. Credit where credit is due, the dial is beautifully sunburst, and the radial brushed lines on black dial is truly a beautiful touch as opposed to typical matte dials, and the dial end result does reflect the light radially in beautiful ways. The brushing on the bracelet is good enough, and I believe it's the same as you see on Rolex Submariner or Explorer, and there are no issues in quality I could see. This is a basic sports model, so Rolex have cut the costs, and resultantly the clasp doesn't come with welded Rolex logo. Rather, there's an engraved logo here. The quality of engraving for the logo is fine, and on par with the standard you would expect from Rolex. If you're thinking what's the difference between this model and Rolex Explorer, the Explorer essentially comes with flip-lock clasp and 5mm extension link as you see on GMT or Yachtmaster, making it a professional model as opposed to this OP, which is a sports watch but technically not a professional model. I did review the Explorer as well, and the link to the review is on your screen or can be seen in the description below. And I can confirm that the polishing on Explorer was better too. Most likely because the Explorer comes with the same Mercedes hands as in professional Rolex models like Sub or GMT, as opposed to hands in this OP. Being 39mm, the watch wears like a joy on the wrist. You would think that this is a small watch, but it isn't quite that small. The lug-to-lug height follows the same proportions as the maxi case on Submariner, and resultantly the watch has taller 48mm lug-to-lug height. The watch wears beautifully on the wrist regardless, and on my 6.5 inches wrist you can see that it is centered perfectly and hugs the wrist as you would want your watch to. I really like the Oyster bracelet, and it complements the sporty looks of the watch perfectly. The bracelet width is 20mm, and it's exactly the same size as it comes on the Submariner, and this helps with giving the watch a little more beefier looks due to wider bracelet and case dimensions. I do personally think that this watch wears like a 40mm watch or maybe a 40.5mm case. For reference, the lug-to-lug height of 40mm Yachtmaster is close to 1mm shorter than this OP39, So you can estimate that the dimensions are relatively taller on this 39mm case. OP39, although at heart is a sports watch, yet due to stick hour markers, a more elegant 39mm case and polished dome bezel do give the watch some dressier looks, and that's one aspect that makes this watch so much versatile that you can easily wear it with casual or formal dresses or occasions, and it will work just with all occasions. The dial symmetry, the black face, the stick hour markers, and then the all brushed finish give you the combination that you'd be pushed to find a day that this watch will not be the right choice. Unfortunately, it doesn't come with the quality I was expecting from Rolex, and it does show some poor attention to detail. So I will sadly say that it seems Rolex have cut the corners in the making of this watch. Whether does this relatively lower craftsmanship fall within your acceptance criteria is subject to your personal opinion and choice. But does it break the deal for me personally? Well, if there is no attention to detail, what is horology all about?